Welcome to Literally Books, the podcast. My name is Magda.
And I'm Lindsay.
And today we're picking right back up. We're covering the second quarter of Onyx Storm, and we're going to be talking about chapters 16 through 32.
Okay, so let's get right on into it. We learn Violet's dad's name. Finally, his name is Asher. He has left Violet some books, all passcode locked, of course, and he advises her to go visit the Isle of Deverelli and speak to a merchant there for more information of things that she needs to learn for the upcoming war. He strongly advises her to work with those that she trusts, and in particular, Dain for his strength in languages.
Then we also get a little bit more background information on Violet. Violet's ex-boyfriend, who just happens to be the son of King Tari, Halden, comes to Basgayat and joins the Quest Squad, helping the team secure meetings with the regions of the Isles. Kind of.
Yeah, we'll talk about more about that later. Okay, so Violet begins her search for Andarna's ancestral riot in the Isles around the continent and uses this opportunity to visit the merchant Narelle that her father spoke of, and learns a lot more. She's given a series of books to read.
We also find out Violet and Xaden have to battle multiple regions, including the King of Deverell and the Queen of Dune, in order to secure their assistance with finding Andarna's parentage. Xaden uses Violet's broken conduit to channel further, deepening his venin abilities.
When battling in Dune, Violet notices that all the residents have silver hair, and one mystery person has hair exactly like hers.
And then finally, Myra has taken a mystery leave to go visit Asher's mother and tells Violet that she should go too. So things are happening.
Things are happening.
Happening.
Chess pieces are moving. We're getting a lot more setup for mysteries to be unveiled, but we don't actually learn that much.
We don't. It seemed like we read a lot, right? Like it was about 150 pages, and it just keeps, the mysteries keeps deepening, I think. And I think I did talk about this yesterday, where I wanted to learn more about the background behind Violet, and I think we are. I mean, we learn about her ex-boyfriend, we're learning about the grandparents. Her world is expanding. I love it.
It is expanding. Okay, so let's talk about some shocking things that we learned. You kick us off.
So I think the biggest shocking to me is, if you guys have read this, you'll know that once you leave the continent and you go into the Isles, supposedly there's no magic around and you're fully cut off from your, like, the bonds with your dragons. You cannot wield your signets or do anything. But this doesn't apply to little old Violet. She's still able to communicate with her dragons, not to Xaden or Sigil, but she's still able to talk to Tairn and to Andarna. And then towards the end of chapter 32, we learn that she's actually able to wield her signet in these Isles, which everybody was like really shocked about.
Except for they weren't really shocked about it. Nobody says anything about her being able to talk to her dragons.
You know what? Yeah, I think Myra, Mira. Sorry, I keep saying Myra, but her name is
Whatever
Mira.
you want to call her. You know what? This is wrong answers only.
So I think Mira was the only one like, but you can still talk to her. And like, she starts wondering, like, do you think it's because of Andarna? Like, that she's special? But they just kind of brush it off a little bit.
It is very funny how many things Violet is like, don't you think this is weird? And you're like, yes, as the reader, like, yes, it is super weird that this is happening. It's super weird that everyone has, matching hair on this isle. It's super weird that you can still talk to your dragons. They're just like, I don't know. It's so like crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, here is one of the other things I thought was really shocking that we learned. We see a cadet during sparring. There's the classes are still going on at Basgayat. They're still going through all the stuff that we see Violet go through in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. So they're still doing their sparring matches. And during one of them, a cadet turns venin after they're being attacked by a fellow cadet and is killed basically in the sparring mat. So you know that the venin's foothold within the Basgayat campus is getting stronger and stronger.
And something that was kind of interesting about that is that Xaden walks into the room, but he doesn't warn or does anything to kind of alert the people that there's another venin within
That's
their
such
within
a
their
good
words.
point. I didn't even think about that.
And I think Violet thinks about it a little bit. She's just like, oh, I wonder if Xaden felt anything or said anything about it. But
you're so right.
We don't talk about it again.
And we know from Jack Barlow that they can sense each other.
Exactly.
She tells, oh my goodness.
So things are brewing. Things are
brewing. Okay, what else?
And then the other thing that I thought was really interesting, thanks to Papa Sorengel's research, we kind of start learning a little bit more about the history and the relationship between the Isles and the continent and why everything just kind of went to shit with them. And it turns out that it's all because the dragons. Everything that the Isles want are dragons, and nobody has been able to deliver on that that promise. So after that, all of their relationships were pretty much cut off. They don't trade with each other because a lot of these isles, their word means everything. So if you're gonna be promising me some dragons in exchange for weapons or whatever, you better deliver. And this didn't happen hundreds of years ago, and that was the main reason why we were cut off by it. So dragon seems to be a very important, I don't want to call them currency, but kind of is.
Yeah, every single isle that we visit is basically, even at Dune, they're all wanting dragons,
Yes.
which is so interesting because they're acting as if dragons have no agency in this.
I thought about that too. I'm like, well, if they wanted to, the dragons could come here
Right.
and choose you,
Yeah,
but
and they don't.
They don't.
It's very
So
interesting.
that was interesting too.
Okay, let's move to the lighter side of life.
Mhm.
You want to talk about some small details that we left?
Okay, I'm gonna call this Hi Xaden. Xaden goes into the Isles and he loses access to all of his powers and magic, which is supposed to kind of make him feel a little bit more calm because he doesn't have like the venin in him kind of struggling as much. And he is living his best life. It is so ridiculous that even all of the quest squad start freaking out because Xaden is asking questions to Dain and telling him that you did a great job, Dain. And at some point, Dain even looks at Violet and just tells him, like, what the fuck did you give him, Violet? Like, because Xaden is just being his best life. He's just high Satan. That's what I'm gonna
He
call
has
him.
no burdens. It's imagine like if you're in Lord of the Rings, it's like he's taken off the one true ring,
Yes,
you know?
such a
Or
great
he's taken off
analogy.
his Horcrux and he's feeling light as a feather.
I love that. I love seeing him, and I think they even talk about it amongst themselves. Like Mira was like, maybe this is the person, or Mira and Violet is like, maybe this is the person that he would have been if he didn't have to carry the entire Mark ones on
Yeah.
him, or like he didn't have to deal with all of the heavy things that he's been thrown into in this life. So I thought that was really beautiful, funny moment too. There's a lot of comedic relief in here, but I love High Zayden. He was great.
Yeah, I do love that Dana's like, is he okay? Cat's like, I don't know this person. It's really good.
Oh, I love that. What about you?
Okay, so some of this is just a theme running in the background. You learn a lot more about like the religion and the gods of this world. So she says things like thanks and all, thank Dune all throughout the books, but you get a more clear sense of what the impact of gods are. So we learn that Amari is the queen of the dogs.
We do need one though.
I mean, that's that's how I feel about it. Okay, Amari is the queen of the gods. Zanal is the god of luck. Malek is the god of death. Dune is the goddess of strength and war. And then we see a prescript in one of the chapters basically saying, like, you need to let your children choose which god they want to devote their life to. You can't choose for them. And then, of course, we're seeing sort of how these gods surface in real life when they go to visit Dune and like what the, traditions and constructs around respect for the god of war is when they have to fight. Like I just feel like going to become an increasingly important element of the book.
Completely agree. And we either get a piece of conversation between, I think it's one of the queens or the kings of one of the isles,
Yeah.
where they're like, wait, are you not going to pay your respects to these god or goddesses? And then they're like, well, we don't, that god is not in ours. So you can kind of tell that there's like a different type of mythology in each of the isles too, or each of the continents, which is really cool. And it's kind of like Greek mythology, Roman, Egyptian.
You're right.
It's like a little parallel between that.
Devarelli,
Mhm.
the Isle of Devarelli is the one that was like, we don't believe in any gods. They believe in commerce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool
Mhm.
that we get to see and expand on that a little bit more. And I hope this does play a more important role in the future.
I
To
agree.
what you mentioned. The other thing that I loved is a jealous Satan. I think we're kind of flipping the script a little bit of what we saw in Iron Flame with Violet versus Kat. Now that we're introduced to Violet's ex-boyfriend, who just happens to be the king to be pretty soon, Halden, and Violet kind of tells Zayden like, "Yeah, I loved him. I didn't love him as much as I loved you, but he was my first love in a way." So you can kind of see Zayden like losing it, and I love to see that because that's exactly what Violet went through with Kat, and just kind of seeing it being repeated here. Even though I don't like to rehash things, I think this worked, and it just made it a little bit more of a comedic thing in my head.
We are not on the same page here.
Oh, really?
No, I feel like in the last book, Xaden is very forthcoming about saying he did not love Kat at all. And the relationship was basically just physical and convenient. Whereas here, I think he's coming across as like a juiced up bro. And I know that that's intentional. We are seeing Xaden's kind of core ethical core start to shift a little bit, and you see it most clearly here with his controlling nature, but he is being controlling in a way that I don't like.
I think I kind of grabbed that because of his venin nature.
1000,
Is
yeah.
definitely coming off across that. I don't know if that's just going to reveal his true nature or if it's just feelings that are being amplified, kind of similar to what Kat does with other things, that
Yeah.
is just kind of messing with his level of control.
I just like that, like, venins are essentially just, like, toxic masculinity incarnate, you know? Like, that's
They're just I don't want to insult Neanderthals, but they're just like, caveman, I
Yes,
guess. That's the
exactly.
best thing that I can explain it.
Mhm.
Maybe let's kind of move on to a little bit of more foreshadowing. Did you pick up on anything that you think is going to play a bigger role in the future in this book?
Okay, so there's a couple of prescripts that are attributed to Asher Daxton, and I'm fairly Asher is a very unique name, and it would be, in my opinion, not great writing to introduce a character named Asher and then introduce a random other character named Asher. So I'm fairly certain that the Asher that we're getting those writings from is Violet's father, but Mira actually hints at the sort of familial issues between his mother, who she goes to visit, and Asher. And so I think he changes his name
That
at some
is
point.
what a great catch. 'Cause I didn't even put together that, yeah, maybe he did do it because he didn't get along with his family. So he
Yeah,
took on Serengil, her name.
exactly right. And I think something about Violet and her hair is tied to the relationship, the thing that breaks down the relationship between Asher and his parents.
Interesting. And Myra's being, I keep calling her Myra.
I know, just
I
stick
know.
with it. I love it.
Mira keeps being a little bit, I don't want to call her shady, but she's being a little bit like closed off and not
Yes.
sharing a lot of information.
Yeah.
She disappeared for a while, and it's because like, oh, I went to see grandmother, and you're like, wait, there's a grandmother? I never
Mhm.
even thought of that. Um, it also kind of extends because I feel like Mira has a feeling that her dad didn't love her enough.
Exactly.
And I think she's kind of stepping away a little bit more from Violet, which is unfortunate. But I really love your theory about the Sorengale one. So
Okay, what
good.
about you?
Um, I I don't think this is a true foreshadowing moment, but I am loving Violet's badassery as she's becoming a little bit more political savvy. She is the one that's pretty much brokering all of the deals right now because Heldon just messed up the whole deals in one of the isles that almost cost all of their lives. And she's the one that's taking charge. She's the one that's demanding what she needs to do to kind of make sure that the quest, what do they call it again?
The Quest Squad?
The quest squad is successful, so she goes to the Serenium and demands what she wants without blinking an eye. She goes and negotiates with this child king. I forget his name. King
Oh, Cortland.
Cortland.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's such a funny name for someone like, it's
Hilarious.
Cortland. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, with King Cortland. And she's the one that is negotiating everything, and she's becoming the de facto true leader of this. And I really enjoyed it because we actually are able to see her growth as a character. I do find that it was a little bit too quick between Iron Flame over to Onyx Storm. Immediately after the battle, she just starts becoming more confident. But I'm here for it. I really do appreciate a person that is a little bit more confident and is able to speak up her mind. And she's getting there. And I think we're going to get to see her as a true politician and leader in the future. And I'm here for it.
Magda mentioned this offline, and I'm going to call it out because I think she's exactly dead on right. The relationship between her and Xaden sort of being in this peril, you mentioned, like, is giving her space to become a more three-dimensional person. It's making me crazy, but I think you are right.
I didn't need to step away from each other, from being in each other's orbits that much. They're still in each other's orbits a little bit, but not as much as they were before, especially with the bond being a little bit more not as accessible.
Yeah.
They're not in each other's thoughts as much as they used to be. And I think that really helps her be her own self, which that's why I wanted her to break up after Iron Flame. Like, they need to break up because they need to know who they are as people. And that's what's happening here.
And he is a toxic partner. I mean, I think we joked with this. Norel even makes that joke about his like toxic romance for her. We're seeing that he's literally, I mean, it's pretty on the nose. Like, the venin is intoxicating. It's sort of like a drug. And he's, instead of like acknowledging that, and instead of Violet acknowledging that, they're turning it inward and saying, no, it's their love for each other. That's the source of this like intense feeling. But it's not. You can see as the reader, like, it's turning sour very quickly.
Yes, Lindsay.
Mm.
They're like, they do not talk about it. That the root cause of this, it is that venom situation, and they're just accepting it as if like he just loves her so much. And in reality, it's just toxic. It's a toxic
It
relationship.
is. And it's so like not to get too far into it, but like it is such a thing. It's such a interesting conversation around the idea of like addiction too, because he's addicted to the power. But if you talk about addiction, there's so much rhetoric in this book about like, oh no, he just like needs to control it. Like, oops, he made an oopsie. He needs to go dry out and then come back and everything will be fine. And it's like, no, 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 that's the behavior.
Yeah.
Like the behavior is this like, you know, relapse into magic use. He's not fixing any of the root cause and there's no like magic cure. I think we know this. This is the foreshadowing that I think we know is coming, is that Violet's so obsessed with the cure and it's like it's not, I don't think it's coming, girl.
She's enabling him.
She's
And
enabling him.
I feel
Yes.
like Tairn knows this because
Yes.
Tairn has made multiple comments throughout these chapters about, I'm not happy with your choice of a mate, and I'm just doing this because you're my person. But I am not happy with you trying to save him. Like, not even Sigil. Sigil is like really pissed at too. Like, she doesn't want to be around Xaden that much. Like, she's not even talking to him.
Yeah.
So I think everybody around them knows that they should not be around each other, but they're both kind of still hanging on, which kind of understand when you still love somebody so much, you want to try to help them out.
Yeah.
But in the end, it could potentially cause more damage because you are enabling them.
Exactly. Oh God, that's such a good point.
Mm.
Okay, my last sort of theory is I think Professor Henson, who was nominated by Grady to be part of the quest squad, is the venin at Buzzguy, the venin professor. When the quest squad goes to Anka to get the citrine for basically bartering at Devarelli, she says they got here so fast after the village is attacked by venin. And I think it happens at the same time that the dragons arrive and the wyvern arrive. And so they sort of allow the reader to think, oh, maybe she was talking about the dragons. But there's something super shady about Henson and the way that she moves within the quest squad and the way she's wheedled her way in. I just think that she is a venin.
You know, you could be absolutely right because we do find that there's a note left by, what's her name again?
Theophany?
Theophany. And I wonder maybe
Oh.
Hanson put it there because, like,
Or tipped her off that they were coming.
or something. Yeah, so that would totally make sense.
I didn't even put that together, but you're so
Mhm.
right.
We have spies within the
Okay.
quest.
We're probably so wrong. And
pad.
the readers out there, it's like, that's not right, you idiots.
Yeah, we're
but-
only halfway through the book, so don't tell us. Like, we're gonna get there. The last thing though that I'm really loving, and I don't know if it's foreshadowing, but I am really loving that Dain is getting a full redemption arc. Like, he's been super helpful. He's pretty much, he hates his dad because, yeah, he's an ass, but he's just like really trying to help them out, and he's kind of come to Violet's side now. And I really hope that it keeps going and it's not like some sort of like a misdirect that he has been against them all along. I hope that that's not the case and that we're truly getting a redemption arc for
Do
him.
you think that there's a possibility that Dain and Violet end up together?
I'm kind of really liking Dain, especially after Norel made that comment when Violet goes to the thing and Norel's like, oh, what a handsome man. I cannot believe, like, your father was so right about you, Dain Athos. And it was Xaden. Because, like, her dad thought and was sure that she was going to end up with Dain for whatever reason, and he didn't. So I don't know if this is going to turn truly into a love triangle. I hope it doesn't, because I feel like that's a cheap trick. I don't want that. But I am liking Dain a lot, and that is, I don't want to call it worrisome, but I do like him a lot.
Yeah, because Violet even says, like, at some point in this book, why wasn't this the Dain that I met at Parapet? Our life would have been really different. And you see that Xaden is sort of acting like Dain did in Fourth Wing, and Dain is evolving. That worries me a little.
Yeah. Oh my God, such a
Yeah.
good point.
I-
Yes, and you know, and if I put my feedback into Dain, Dain is acting like how Violet acted in Iron Flame, which was her second year, and I'm sorry guys, I did not like Violet.
Xaden, you mean?
More both. I didn't like
Okay.
Violet in Iron because she was so whiny and she just like
Yeah.
wanted her way, blah blah blah. That was Dain on Fourth Wing. Like, he
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
her to follow all of the rules. He
Yeah.
wanted her to do those things, and that's what Violet did in Iron Flame.
Yeah.
And now they're both at a character development. They're
They're evolving.
grown. They're
Yes.
evolving. But you're right, Xaden hasn't.
He's devolving. He's
Yes.
devolving.
Oh,
It's very nerve wracking.
I'm worried now. Yep.
Okay, I think to round out the episode, maybe we end on a high note because I think we both are really enjoying some of the humor in these sections. Do you want to talk about some of your favorite funny moments?
I don't know if this is like super funny, but one of my things, we were talking about the King Cortland, And the way that they introduce them, it is very Game of Thrones with the longest name in the history of ever that even Xaden is like, well, that's humble. And like, let me see if I can read it real quick. His name is King Courtly IV, ruler of the Verelli, master of the trade, keeper of the troughs, justice of the tribunal, and heir of the antiquities. Like, that is his full title, and that's how everybody introduces him, and it just gave me a really good laugh. What about you?
Okay, that section like reminds me of a song from I think it's Fiddler on the Roof where it's like Master of the Who. Anyway, some musical theater person out there will understand that. Okay, there was a one line, I think it was actually in the last section, but it's where Violet is crying about something when Tairn gets knocked out. And like Tairn is very funny in this book. And he says, like, don't dehydrate yourself on my account when she starts to cry. And I was like, okay, sassy. I loved it.
Tairn, the disciplinarian, is my favorite thing
Yes.
too, as he's trying to, make sure that Andarna learns the right way of doing things. And at some point, when they're flying for a long time and they get to Lord Takaris's house, Andarna lands and she puts her tail on the floor. And Tairn goes, don't put your tail on the floor. Do you think you're at the Vale? I don't know. It just seemed like such a parent thing. I feel like we've
Yeah.
all been there as a kid or as a
Like, get
parent
your
where
freaking feet off the couch. Yeah.
exactly. I just love that. Tairn has been my favorite character so far in this book. I
He
just love him.
he is their breath of fresh air. And I want more moments like that. Like I want more moments of the squad at the bar. I want more moments of him giving Andarna shit. It's the like the breath that you need to keep going in these books, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we talked about this in our episode yesterday. Chapters 1 through 15, it was a little bit more of a small build up. I think we
Mhm.
see a lot more of like Violet in her head. And now from 16 to 32, we start seeing more of the relationships within the squad and the
Mm.
friendship. And I think that's where the book thrives, is how their dynamic between the friends. It's so funny, it's so real. And the way that they try to find like lighthearted moments in such dark times, it's my favorite thing so far.
I mean, that's the perfect way to end the episode, I think.
So tomorrow we're going to have a brand new episode. We're going to be covering chapter 33 to chapter 51, which is going to be our 3 quarters of the book. And thank you for listening to Literally Books, the podcast.
Where we say what we read.
And we mean when we say bye.